On a daily basis, I get questions about red light therapy and how do I know if a specific device is actually what it says it is, how to judge what to buy, if you're getting what is advertised. So today I'm sitting down with Dr. Mike Belkowski to talk about the red light therapy industry, how to know what you're getting, how to dose yourself, because most panels don't come with instructions. There are liability reasons for that, but how you can actually figure out what dosage might be right for you based on your particular goals. We also dive into a continuation of last week's episode that was abruptly ended by Hurricane Helene, cutting off my internet for about 24 hours. So we finish up part one. If you haven't watched that, make sure to head down to the show notes to watch part one. And then we really dive deeper into the topic of red light therapy, which Dr. Mike Belkowski is an expert on. We even talk about why you don't want to combine sauna and red light therapy, which is a very trendy, popular thing to do. So make sure that you stay tuned for the interview and head down to the show notes to get all of Dr. Mike's information so you can follow him and listen to his amazing content. Thank you so much for being here, and let's jump right into the show. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you might know that I'm not a huge fan of taking handfuls of supplements. But Shilajit is something that I see in a different category, and it's something I've been playing around with for the last couple of years. Now, if you've never heard of Shilajit before, it is a tar-like substance that is found in high altitudes and is heavily regarded in traditional Ayurvedic medicine for several things. When you get Shilajit, you have to be careful where you source it from because you want it to be third-party tested for things like mold and heavy metals. That is why I am a huge fan of Black Lotus Shilajit and their products. They're a small family company and stand behind everything they do and third-party test everything. I've personally been taking their 200 milligram Shilajit tablets and absolutely feel a big difference in my energy, cognitive function, mood, and even my sleep. Check out Black Lotus Shilajit and use code Sarah K to save 15% off everything on their website. Today's show is brought to you by Upgraded Formulas. They have my absolute favorite magnesium. You can get the best and only clinically studied stabilized nano magnesium supplement on the market from Upgraded Formulas using my code YOGI for 10% off. Did you know that magnesium is actually required for over 800 enzymatic reactions in the body? This clinically studied magnesium has proven to improve sleep quality and energy by over 60%, specifically improving light sleep measurement by 90%, REM sleep by 150%, and deep sleep by 250%. That means more energy, better mood, and deeper sleep. Who doesn't want that? What makes this the best on the market? This specific magnesium is nano magnesium, which means it is easier for your body to absorb and use. In fact, it is absorbed up to 99.99%, which means you'll feel the results instantaneously. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Evolving Wellness. As you can see, it is a different day here. Our last conversation was abruptly ended because of Hurricane Helene. And so we're back here a week later. Dr. Mike Belkowski. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to wrap the conversation about C60, hit a little bit maybe on methylene blue, and then really dive into red light therapy, which was the original intent of the episode. So thanks for coming back, Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad you're safe and well, and glad we're able to reconvene for some more conversation.
Me too. Yeah, and like I said, the before I turn on the camera, the worst that happened was that we lost internet for the day. I mean, there's people in just horrible situation right now, so my heart goes out to all of them. We were very unscathed. They just had a day without internet, which is kind of a blessing. Except our conversation was just like ended. So yeah.
I was left talking to myself for like a minute or two because I thought you might reconnect and come back on, so I just kept talking, and then I realized I'm like, oh, she probably lost connection somehow.
I was trying. I was like trying to hook onto my phone. I was trying to reconfigure the Ethernet, and then I was trying to text you because I have your phone number, and the text wasn't even going through, so I couldn't even use my phone. Like nothing was working, and I just said, "Oh, well, I guess this is the outage from the hurricane. We're getting that here." we still had power. So, like I said, we were pretty much unscathed. But yeah, it was an abrupt ending to the conversation. So I know we were talking about C60. You were talking about the rats that live 90% longer and had no tumors. And these rats typically die riddled with tumors. And so we really had just been talking about some of the longevity benefits of C60. And what is the mechanism? That's what I wanted to ask in the last conversation. The mechanism for C60 in the mitochondria. Is it kind of an electron donor? What exactly does it do when we look at the respiratory transport chain, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so similar to methylene blue, which I guess we haven't spoken about yet, both extremely small molecules in the sense they can get inside of the mitochondria. So that's likely where some of the benefits are derived. Although with C60, it's so new, they're still working out the mechanisms of action. As far as what I know, and I've spoken with Chris Burris, who is the co-founder of SES Research. I don't know if I mentioned that last time,
You
but I'll
did.
mention it
Mhm.
again.
Yep.
They produce like all the C60 for industrial applications and now human consumption applications. So they're deep, and they're the ones that provide all of the C60 for like the research, like that study in 2012. It was their C60 that extended the lifespans of the rats by 90%. Uh, but what he told me, and I've heard him on multiple other podcasts when I was first learning about C60, is and I think I might have mentioned this last time, the BOSS mechanism, or the buffering oxidative stress system. So Chris likens the C60 to a paddy wagon. Um, and whereas typically when there's reactive oxygen species and free radicals roaming around, whether it's excess spillage or not, our internal or our endogenous systems, the glutathione, melatonin, those are the antioxidants that come in, and they will, because they're antioxidants as well, they'll donate their electrons, take care of those free radicals, no oxidative stress. And so a lot of stuff goes unnoticed thanks to largely glutathione, but then melatonin as well. But when there is excess free radical leakage, or when there's too many dysfunctional mitochondria leading to that, then the glutathione, the melatonin, there's not enough of them to handle that excess. So that's where C60 comes into play. And based on what Chris Burris told me, it's like, again, the C60 is a paddy wagon where it's not going to attach itself or donate electron and thus remove it from the system. They're going to, how he phrased it, like handcuff the free radicals, hold on to them, and they can hold, um, I don't remember if it was, they can do 6 free radicals at a time or 32. I think they can donate 32 electrons. Uh, but anyway, let's say they can hold on to 6 at a time. They'll hold on to those free radicals until your glutathione and or your melatonin is replenished, and they can come on or come and take those free radicals from the C60 and then dispose of them as appropriate. So it
Okay.
acts as this mechanism of like holding on to them until your levels can replenish. And while, let's say the number is 6, while holding on to 6 free radicals might not seem like a lot, because there's probably who knows what the number is that could be pouring out of your mitochondria. And I don't remember if I mentioned this before, Sarah, so I apologize if this is redundant, but Chris told me in one drop of a C60 that's properly mixed in olive oil, and olive oil is the oil that can hold the highest concentration of C60. So in literally one little drop, there's 425 times more molecules of C60 than total cells in your body. 425 times. So then you start multiplying, let's say the number is 6 again. 6, they can hold on to 6 free radicals times 425 times as many cells in your body. So then all of a sudden it's like, okay, wow, C60 is this very powerful, it is an antioxidant. It has many electrons to donate. But again, Chris is telling me the mechanism is its ability to hold on to these free radicals until glutathione and melatonin can come around and do
Oh,
their job
wow.
appropriately. So that's
Yeah.
how um that's how it works. Again, as far as internal mechanism, that hasn't been teased out yet. I'm sure Chris and other researchers will in due time, but it's such a new, especially in the human health consumption, health and wellness area, it's extremely new. So I'm sure that'll be teased out in time. And I'm sure there's a lot of parallels to the ways that methylene blue works, or even red light therapy, as far as Does it donate electrons to complexes one, two, three, or four? Or what else could it be doing to help make that process more efficient? I'm sure we'll find that out. But the way I think of it is it's improving the external environment of the mitochondria. Because, like we've discussed, if there's too much oxidative stress, that'll lead to mitochondrial dysfunction. Mitochondrial dysfunction leads to more free radical
Mhm.
and oxidative stress potential, which leads to more mitochondrial dysfunction. So it's this vicious cycle where C60 can come in, improve the environment around the mitochondria, give it a place to thrive, return to some normalcy or less dysfunction. Thus, that should lead to less free radical and oxidative stress. And so then you switch it from a vicious cycle to like a more happy and thriving perpetual cycle. So C60 lends its hand there. Both methylene blue 60, again, are some of the most powerful antioxidants out there. When you compare it to something like the vitamin C's and the vitamin E's of the world,
Yeah.
whereas those degrade when they start donating their electrons,
Mhm.
methylene blue and C60 do not. Now, it's not perpetual, but the regenerative antioxidants where they can donate electrons, accept electrons, donate electrons, accept electrons
Mhm.
over and over again, thousands of times before they have any semblance of degradation. So in
Got it.
that sense, very powerful, a lot of potential there, but that's really how C60 works. It's that boss or that buffering oxidative stress system with the paddy wagon and all that fun stuff.
Cool. And then we get to methylene blue, which has some synergistic um, power with red light therapy, correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff. I like to take my methylene blue, wait a little bit, and then do a good red light therapy session. It always feels so good. So maybe we could talk about methylene blue a little bit and then how it is synergistic with red light therapy.
Sure. So it is synergistic with red light therapy because the peak absorption of methylene blue is like 660. It's like right in the heart of the red light spectrum. So that begs the question, so how much impact would near infrared light have? I
Mhm.
haven't dug that deep, or I haven't heard anything where near infrared is photodynamic or methylene blue is photodynamic with near infrared. Regardless, methylene blue on its own is a very powerful mitochondrial boosting adjuvant. Red light therapy on its own is an extremely powerful mitochondrial boosting modality. So you
Mhm.
can do either by themselves. You're
Mhm.
likely going to see some awesome energy boosting, mitochondrial boosting results. Doing them together, like you alluded to, a very powerful synergistic response, especially if red light specifically is included. Again, because that's what methylene blue responds to. So the dark blue pigment, to your point, you want to wait. You don't want to like take your methylene blue, do your red light therapy right away, because there's research that shows it takes about 90 minutes or so for the peak plasma concentration of methylene blue to occur, I suppose.
Mhm.
So, I mean, even like an hour, even 45 minutes, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be perfect. And even the research probably isn't perfect. So, 90 minutes, give or take. But take your methylene blue, do your red light therapy 30 to 60, 90 minutes later, whatever works for your schedule. And when that blue or when that methylene blue is in your system, the dark pigment's going to accept or uh yeah, take in more red photons than you would otherwise, which is going to lead to more electrons, more ATP, biological water production, all that good stuff. So your protocol is perfect. Doing the methylene blue, doing your red light therapy a little later, and allow your mitochondria to thrive.
Mhm.
Whereas red light therapy, interestingly enough, specifically helps improve the function of complex 4,
Mhm.
where it's
Or we
which is
make
what
water.
cytochrome
Yeah.
deoxidase is. Yep, exactly. Which is extremely powerful, obviously, because red light therapy is doing a lot of good things um, via research and anecdotally. So whereas red light therapy helps with complex 4, methylene blue seems to help with, I believe, 1, 2, and 4, or is it 1, 3, and 4? I think it's 1, 3, and 4. So there's more ways that methylene blue can help donate electrons and help improve the efficiency of that ATP biological water production. Also, like we talked about with C60 and methylene blue, both hold a ton of electrons, so extremely powerful antioxidant uh, properties. We don't know again with C60. Can C60 donate to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2? Like we don't know yet. There's probably some similarities, I would imagine, with methylene blue. But regardless, there's not that redundancy because, again, I see C60 as improving the external environment, probably some internal. Methylene blue is really a powerful internal mechanism to improve the electron transport chain production. And then red light therapy, um, while it's also an anti-inflammatory and is donating electrons, it's really focused on that complex four. And so another powerful thing about methylene blue, and I guess historically, methylene blue has been around since the late 1800s.
Mhm.
So while it's new to the biohacking world and to people consuming it for longevity and anti-aging, it's been around since the late 1800s, and it is a synthetic dye. And so this is the conundrum around methylene blue. We're not promoting it, we're just educating, talking about it, but alluding to consuming this synthetic substance to improve our mitochondria. It's tough to believe that. And the first time I heard about methylene blue years ago, and I heard it was an aquarium cleaner, my
Mhm.
mind just turned off and like I didn't think about it or I didn't like
Mhm.
consider it. I listened to the information, but I'm like, no thanks, no aquarium cleaner for my body.
Right.
But when you start looking at the research and the mechanisms and how safe it actually is, just like red light therapy, that's one of my favorite things about red light therapy is extremely low risk, extremely high reward. Same
Mhm.
thing with methylene blue, same thing with C60. So again, back in the late 1800s, it's a synthetic dye used to dye jeans and other textiles and leathers. And then it found its way into microscopy, where these particular organelles were really just soaking up this blue dye.
Mhm.
Well, those organelles were the mitochondria. And it wasn't too long after that, I think it was 1890, 1895 or something, that they utilized methylene blue as an anti-malarial. So whereas malaria was extremely difficult to treat,
Mhm.
uh, quite deadly, they were able to essentially cure people within 48 hours with methylene blue.
Mhm.
And so then that's what kind of got it into it became the first pharmaceutical drug in the US
Wow.
after that was found out, used during World War I, World War II for a lot of antiviral, anti-malarial
Yeah.
stuff. They would also, psychiatrics would put methylene blue into their pharmaceuticals, not for the methylene blue benefits, but because when you take methylene blue, you're going to pee some color of blue or green. So they would put methylene blue into their drugs to make sure that their patients were actually taking their drugs
Interesting.
because they would check their urine. So anyway,
Okay.
fast forward to present day, we're over 100 plus years later, and it's not a patented molecule, so the FDA can't like commandeer it and put it on the market for like a ridiculous price like other pharmaceutical drugs. So it's a relatively easy to find, and I guess that's another good educational point is all methylene blue isn't created equal. You must get a pharmaceutical grade powder because it
Yep.
comes, like we just talked about, it's still used in microscopy. You
Mhm.
don't want to consume that. It's still used in aquariums. Don't want to consume that. So you want to make sure whatever product you do get is pharmaceutical grade and it's verified. It's not just text on a page. I see this all over the place that they say it's such and such, but have them prove it to you. Send them a certificate of analysis, ask where they source it. They
Yeah.
should prove, because I even see other companies posting the color of their powder, and I'm not calling out any companies, but it's like a royal blue powder, which doesn't, um, at least with what I source, which is the cleanest and best I could find in the world, methylene blue should be this like dark foresty green powder,
Mhm.
like very, very dark. So when I saw in like a different company, they're selling methylene blue and it's like a royal blue, either they're taking an image off of Google and just using it, or if that's what they're actually using, that's probably more microscopy, aquarium cleaner stuff. So just beware, be very diligent, because if you're going to put anything in your body, just like with red light therapy, be diligent about what product you get. Do
Right.
your due diligence, make sure it's third party tested so you can verify the light irradiance spectra,
Right.
EMF emission. But yeah, I'll let you ask any questions.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you about the methylene blue. And just to back up a little bit, uh, I think it's also helpful if you can't necessarily get to red light therapy to just go for a walk outside because we've pretty much got that red going on all day. That can help. So, if someone's like, because I know people kind of freak out about having like a specific protocol, which we're gonna give all of my nerdy people who need protocols some great stuff here in this episode. But I think just going outside can be really helpful if you want to play around with methylene blue and light. And then if you want to get a panel, sure, awesome. That can be helpful. Just wait that, 60, 90 minutes or so. Um, but yeah,
That's a
I
good
agree
point.
with you with the methylene blue. I'm super picky. There is like two sources that I will buy from. And that's about it because yes, it's not regulated. Um, but yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm definitely a big fan of methylene blue. And you got to be careful. You don't want to combine it with, and I've nothing on the podcast as medical advice. You got to be careful combining it with certain medications, SSRIs, things like that. And I've seen people uh, with get hungrier when they take methylene blue, and I'm like, yeah, I think it's because it's increasing your mitochondrial function. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
No, but it makes sense. I've also heard the anecdote that it makes you urinate more, and I'm wondering,
Hmm.
okay, is that because of the water
Water
production
production.
increase? Yeah, so you're more hydrated. I don't know.
Could
But that's
be.
a good point. So with the SSRIs, that's a very good point because that is in the research. But I want to make the caveat that that research that is cited, and the only reason that SSRIs are
Contraindicated.
contraindicated is it was a parathyroid surgery, so open wound, if you will, and they're dumping in like a full bottle of methylene blue.
Oh,
This patient happened to be on SSRIs. There happened to be complications. So it's that specific event is where that stemmed from. That's
okay.
not to say like ignore that, but just
That's
let's
good
add
to
a
know.
little context to that. Yeah. Because I've had countless customers um and people I work with that give to their clients who are on SSRIs, and I've heard no problems.
Okay.
Again,
Well, that's
this is
really good to
medical
know.
advice. Yeah. And then secondarily, I mean, this is another good subtopic, I suppose. It's not really a subtopic, it's still on methylene blue. But have you heard of leukomethylene blue?
Mm-mm.
So when you consume methylene blue, your body processes it, reduces it into leukomethylene blue, which is then what is utilized by the cells or by the mitochondria.
Hmm.
So by consuming leukomethylene blue in the first place, there's no processing necessary. It's immediately bioavailable. And since, from a chemical perspective, since it's a reduced version of methylene blue, it actually has more electrons and thus has a higher antioxidant capacity. So, and also since it's further processed, it's further removing any impurities or metals or anything like that. So it's actually even a cleaner version. With that being said, it is twice as expensive to source
Mm.
leukomethylene blue as it is methylene blue.
Okay.
Um, to my knowledge, I think BioLite's the only company that sells a leukomethylene blue product. But the anecdote I want to add to this, or I guess a consideration, why would someone choose leukomethylene blue? You're older, so your liver and your kidneys, if they're compromised at all, leukomethylene blue would make more sense because you're circumventing having to utilize those, or specifically the liver to break it down. So that would be an option or a reason. If you're really on the healing journey and you're trying to recover from something, you need, and you're trying to get as well as quickly and safely as possible. Leuko may have the edge. There's no research out there. This is just theoretical. Leuko may have the edge because, again, higher antioxidant capacity, um, and it's instantly bioavailable. And so the anecdote I'll throw out there, because I didn't talk about on here, I talked about it with Carrie.
Hmm.
Um, Earlier this year, kind of when I first released the leukomethylene blue product, um, I wanted to get my dad to at least try it. My mom and I wanted my dad to try. He's not a health and wellness enthusiast. He just goes about his life. Um, 71-year-old, classic, old guy that just wants to keep on keeping on. Up to that point, he was using readers all the time. Never a
Hmm.
glasses guy, had good vision, but as he got older, chronologically, used readers more and more and more.
Yep.
So my mom and I um, really pushed him to use the leukomethylene blue in a C60, so we agreed to do it for a month back in March. After the first month, the only thing he really noticed retrospectively was that his vision improved a little bit. He was using his readers a little less. Once he thought about it, he didn't really
Hmm.
realize it in the moment. So he was kind of motivated to continue on the regimen. So he did for months and months after that, just because he saw some improvements with his vision. That was pretty cool. In July, sitting down for dinner, I just brought up the question again, like, have you noticed anything with the Luke or the C60? And he said, Yeah, I haven't been using my readers at all.
Wow.
And so again, just one anecdote doesn't prove anything, but the literally the only thing he changed in his daily regimen, and he's a creature of habits,
Mm-hmm.
was including the Luco and the C60. I think he was more fervent and consistent about taking the Luco versus the C60. I don't think he liked the oil aspect of the C60.
Yeah. I can't
So
get my husband to take the C60, and I know he needs it. He doesn't want to drink the.
just
I'm
put it
like,
on as a salad. Just put it on a salad.
because my daughter and I both like shoot it in the morning. I'm like, all right, shots.
Do
We
you have
do
any
our.
pets?
Huh, I have a dog. Yeah.
Do you give your dog C60?
No, I haven't.
I've been giving my dog C60 the past year.
How's
He's
that going?
he, well, he's so I just put it on his food.
Hmm.
Um, he's only got him in 2020. He's coming up on 4 in January. So it's like I
Mm-hmm.
won't really know until like years and years and years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Like hopefully just helping his joints stay healthy, stave off inflammation or, recover from all of his big play dates with his friend across the fence. So again, like I don't know, we won't know, right? And that's the one thing about the biohacking and the longevity
You don't know. Yeah.
is it's like you don't know if you're feeling good,
Mm-hmm.
it's something you kind of take for granted until you
Mm-hmm.
don't.
Until you don't feel good. Yep.
The other thing you can do is, I guess, compare yourself to your contemporaries or your colleagues that
Mm-hmm.
are similar age, or like watch your friends on Facebook or whatever. And like as the years go by, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe a couple decades, it's like you're probably going to see some pretty stark
Oh yeah.
difference in your
It's happening
vitality.
now for me at age 45. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Well, even me at 35, like
Oh yeah, that
some of
it
my high
starts in the
school classmates
30s.
aren't looking too good, or like they're
Yeah.
having health complications.
Yeah. It's fair. Yeah, I know. A lot of people are quick to talk about the benefits of sunlight, but what gets often missed in the conversation is the benefit of darkness and the importance of protecting yourself from blue and green light after sunset. That is why I choose Viva Rays as my go to source for protecting my circadian rhythms. You can use the code YOGI to save 15% off at Viva Rays. Now, you may have seen some of these studies popping up. I call them fear mongering about blue blockers not being effective. And that is a partial truth because when you use blue blockers that are clear or that have not been tested with a spectrometer to actually block what they say they do, they will not protect your circadian rhythms and they are not catching those key wavelengths that you need to be blocking in order for your body to be able to repair, for you to make melatonin, which is a master antioxidant. And artificial light at night has been in the scientific literature extensively linked to a host of hormonal cancers, obesity, diabetes, and all sorts of metabolic issues. That again is why I choose Viva Rays as my go to source for protecting my circadian rhythms to allow my body to get adequate darkness at night. You can use the code YOGI to save 15% over at Viva Rays, and you can actually trust that they block the frequencies of light that they say they do. Thanks to Viva Rays for sponsoring today's podcast. And here we are. It's that time of life. It's like, okay, you might have been had the good genetics and can kind of do whatever you want when you're younger, which I never did. Never did. Was always like the chunky, acne prone, like, you know, not the healthy looking one. I had to work my ass off. Which my husband's always like, that's why you look how you do in your 40s, is because in your 20s you had to work your ass off to just
Right.
look normal like everybody else, and now you kept the work ethic, you know how to take care of your body, and it's paying off because everybody else who wasn't is now like all their bad habits catch up. So
Yeah, think about all the
blessing
habits
and a
you've
curse.
instilled over the past 5 years, 10 years, 20
Mm-hmm.
years. It's
Mm-hmm.
like in the compound benefits of that. And like probably don't even realize all the good things you're
All the things
doing,
we do. Yeah.
but it's
I
a
mean,
habit.
I'm like, I was thinking about my dog. I'm like, oh, but we do give her, my dog gets like all the water. I have my water special brew that's
Oh
like
yeah.
hydrogen infused, mineral infused water. I don't put as much minerals in her water because she's a dog. She doesn't need as much as we do, but like she gets hydrogen infused water.
That's awesome.
Like, you know, um, yeah. So it's funny how that works. How we, anyway, yeah. I was going to ask you a question going back to the methylene blue and the C60. Now, I've always told people you don't want to take these like every single day. you want to give yourself a couple of days off. Because I do think they kind of build up in the system. How do you feel about that? Or because it sounds like with your dad, he was just kind of taking those regularly. Or what are your feelings on that?
I think there's obviously more than two schools of thought, but I think there's a couple schools of thought here. Yours, and I'm on board with both. Yours where it's like with any supplement, maybe cycle on, cycle off,
You
or
do that
at
with
least
every
take a
supplement.
couple, or at least take a t couple days off
Mm-hmm.
a week. The caveat, not the caveat, the devil's advocate, and this is not right or wrong. I'm just thinking in this world we live in,
Mm-hmm.
with all we're bombarded by and our mitochondria are,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe again, the devil's in the dosage, and just like red light therapy every day is not necessarily better than, or it's not better than like let's say every other day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to be quite honest, I take both of them most days, if not
Mm.
every day.
Okay. Yeah, I
And
don't
maybe
remember
you could educate me on
who
why I
I talked
shouldn't.
to that said it could like accumulate in the mitochondria. It could accumulate, and you need to give yourself time to let it clear out. I don't know who told me that. I've like talked to so many so many people at this point. So I've always been like, all right, 5 days on, 2 days off. With methylene blue, I just take that as I need it. Like if I had
Sure.
a bad night of sleep or if I feel like I'm coming down with something, like I don't take that one often. That one's more of as an ad need as needed. But it sounds like for you, like you take them just like pretty regularly.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Again,
Might be something to play around with, you know?
play around with. If you ever find the information that would show that,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm all for it. Again, to your point, probably with any supplement, and I've taken supplements since high school, so I've just been like for better or worse, probably worse, just like in the supplement world and
Mm-hmm.
all about it. So it's probably part of like my wanting to take something mindset. Um, Granted, before I not met him personally, but through podcasts and whatnot, met Jack Cruz, I was
Mm-hmm.
taking so many supplements and
Oh, yeah.
adjuvant, and I've gone back and forth with the pendulum, like cutting back to like minimals or the necessaries, then adding more and more and more, then cutting
Mm-hmm.
back to like the foundationals. So I'm back to taking like very little,
Same.
but a couple of them are this new methylene blue capsule that we just released in a Leuco capsule, and then the C60.
Mm-hmm.
The C60, and again, speaking with Chris Burris, I haven't released that episode yet, but who knows, by the time this episode comes out, it might be released. He, I asked him this question. It's like, so what's the upper limit for C60? Like, is there a toxic level or like, how much is too much? And his
Mm-hmm.
answer was the upper limit is as much olive oil as your body can handle,
Hmm.
meaning there is none
Okay.
based on what he's read. Um, so if you could, and there's no way on earth you want to take like a gram in one day,
Yeah.
but that was the whole point of that rat study again was to find the toxic levels of C60 to the human. Um, of course, the devil's in the dosage. They need to figure this out. Like, how much more is better, if at all? Because with methylene blue, that's another thing in the research. 10 milligrams twice a day is the colloquial uh, dosage.
Mm.
I've done research, especially like in mental health people, where they played around with 10 milligrams, 15, 20, 50 milligrams twice a day. And 10 milligrams was the best dosage. There was no additional benefit to the
Going
20
beyond.
and beyond. There were no negative consequences. There just wasn't any additional benefits.
Okay.
And the upper limit for methylene blue is extremely high. So the 10 milligrams twice a day, the upper limit's like 300 milligrams twice a day. So we're talking like if you're taking a liquid, 600 drops twice a day. And that's still in the safe um, and effective dosage range. So the 10 milligrams twice a day is still extremely, extremely low, relatively speaking. But again, that seems to be like where the most bang for your buck is.
Interesting. Okay. More to look into.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, to your point, if you're a red light therapy enthusiast, again,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to do it every time, but taking some methylene blue, then doing your red light therapy 60 to 90 minutes later. Most times that you do, if you do red light therapy every other day, then maybe that's a good paradigm for your methylene blue consumption too. If you want to do, um, be on the little lower side of ingesting it.
Yep. And we do hydrogen inhalation here too. We've got a pretty high powered hydrogen machine. And I know that's a amazing
Yeah.
antioxidant, does a lot for the mitochondria. I know you were at the water conference and saw Tyler speak. Um,
Yes.
so we do a lot of mitochondrial support here. We have a V light. We use that guy. Um,
Pair
yeah.
that with some methylene blue.
Oh
Because
yeah.
again, most of the methylene blue ends up in your brain. I
Brain.
forgot to mention that. So when you consume methylene blue, there's two cool things that happen. A, the methylene blue has this innate ability to go the most dysfunctional cells first. So if you
Mm.
have any precancerous or cancerous cells in your body, the methylene blue is going to go there first. After
Oh,
that, there's 100x concentration in your central nervous system. So a lot of it ends up in your brain
okay.
regardless. So with your V light, since it's going to irradiate the lower portion of your
Nose.
frontal,
Mhm.
that would be a winner winner chicken dinner.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
what else was I going to say? What were you talking about?
I was just talking about hydrogen, just
Oh, hydrogen,
antioxidant
yes. So
therapy.
that's something
Yeah.
I take daily. I get those tablets.
Hmm.
Um, and another hack that I learned from Chris Gethin, and who else mentioned it recently? Oh, David Horonek, and he's the guy. This guy is a complete serial entrepreneur. He's basically a genius. In he's doping different textiles with different minerals to help the body either use its own heat to then reflect infrared light onto itself, or like he's doing a lot of wild things. So
Okay.
anyway, he's doing a hack where he takes his hydrogen water and then he'll put his methylene blue in there and then take it, and he thinks it
Oh,
has a he takes a lesser amount of
powerful
methylene
delivery.
blue,
Yeah.
but he feels like quite an effect in his brain specifically, which is
That's
when
what
I
I was
first
talking with Tyler about. I'm like, we need to do some experiments with some of these other modalities in hydrogen. Like,
yeah.
I'll put my machine like next to my panel and I'll inhale the gas and do red light therapy. But I never thought about methylene blue because I've got a machine where you can infuse the water and
Yep.
it's crazy powerful. I've got an Axiom H2 and you put the little wand in there. So I can
Yep. Yep.
diffuse any liquid. So I could try that with a methylene blue. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Because I mean, again, it's the smallest molecule.
Yeah.
And I would have to ask Tyler. He's about to be on my podcast too, so I'll ask him. Is hydrogen would hydrogen be like a carrier for these smaller molecules like methylene blue or other adjuvants? C60 is a little different because it's lipophilic.
Yeah.
You to this point, you don't want to take you don't want to take C60 like the powder in water because it's actually detrimental.
Mm.
But I hate to keep alluding to all these people. So Chris Campbell, he's another guy that wrote an amazing C60 book. His take on C60 is it may be the thing that brought all of these molecules to Earth because again, it's this
Mm.
soccer ball hollow cage, so it can hold and carry like hydrogen gas and different oils and different elements. So C60 is comes from the stars. Like when a star is flaming out, there's tons of C60 there. So when a meteorite came and hit Earth, there's proof that there was a lot of C60 in those meteorites. So were those C60 molecules carrying things like hydrogen, nitrogen, and all these um, basic elements to Earth? It's a very interesting concept. But
Mm.
he was telling me that the Russians were currently trying to find a way to implement C60 into water safely and more effectively.
Mm.
Basically, it's like making like a drinking water that has C60. So that's conflicting information with what I read about um, potentially very harmful and deleterious effects if you combine C60 with water and consume it. So just food for thought. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Very interesting. So red light therapy. Let's talk about that a little bit. Which is how we originally connected because of your company BioLight, and you have already an amazing resource that I've been sending people to for the last few years that really has put together all of this red light therapy research because that's the first thing that people will ask me, like, well, how long should I do it? And uh what time of day? And how much red, how much infrared, and I think people just get really confused. I like personally like to keep it like really simple. I'm like I would always just use red and infrared together. I would never turn on one or the other really because you can always get benefits from both. But yeah, let's flesh that out a little bit.
Yeah, some key topics, and I don't remember if we talked about this, what was it, a couple years ago at this point, but
Mm-hmm.
like some key points that people should know that's like this information isn't really prevalent out there. Red and near infrared light, which comprise photobiomodulation or red light therapy, do the exact same thing in the body, just at different depths in the body. So red light, since it's a shorter wavelength than near infrared, doesn't penetrate as deeply, only affects the skin
Mm-hmm.
physiologically. Although you could argue if you've visibly seen that red light, there's probably some internal mechanisms where it's affecting a lot of your internal systems.
There has to be because there was that study on glucose,
Yeah.
which showed that the red light therapy shown on the back of the shoulder decreased glucose spikes like 26% or something like that. It was
Mm.
that was red. I don't know if you saw that one. Yeah, that was like 670 nanometers, which is not in the near infrared where that penetrates, but yeah.
Decreased glucose levels.
Yeah. Let me see if I can pull up that study because I
So
talk
like a diabetic thing.
just on on a healthy person. Red light therapy decreased blood glucose.
I'd just be
Well,
curious what the mechanism is.
let me see if I can pull it up. Hold, please. Okay, here we go. Red light therapy and blood sugar level. As per new study by UCL researchers, red light therapy led to a 27.7% reduction in blood glucose levels following glucose intake and reduced maximum glucose spiking by 7.5%. Let me see if I can send you that study into the chat. It was just done in 2024. Here we go. Light stimulation of mitochondria reduces blood glucose levels. And it was just shown 607 nanometers was shown on the back of the shoulder. Let me send
Mm-hmm.
it to you in the chat. And it was on healthy individuals. And it was just directly following glucose intake. So that to me shows that obviously, yeah, what you're saying is there's got to be some sort of an internal,
670.
yep.
Oh man, give us the full article.
Did it not? And I just sent the wrong one.
Well, let's
Oh
see if
yeah, I
it
didn't. Yeah,
does.
here's the DOI.
Oh, they
Here we
actually
go.
did it.
Yeah, you can link to it. I'll have to link to this in the see how they're shining it when you pull up the DOI. Yeah, I can share my screen with people so they can see what the heck we're even talking about here.
So they did 15 minutes light exposure,
Here we go.
5 minutes prior to consuming glucose. Participants in the placebo were positioned identically 15, but the light was not turned on. Um,
Yeah, I've
or,
shared the
or-
screen with everyone if they want to take a look at it. And I'll try to make sure we link it in the episode show notes as well.
so this is worth noting. The light, well, first of all, where is the methods?
I'm looking up at the abstract. Here's methods.
Because I'm trying to find if they even say what light they used.
Six,
Do-
let's see. It just says 670 nanometer photobiomodulation.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if they name. But regardless, the noteworthy part for people to, I guess, be illuminated by is the light irradiance was 40 milliwatts per centimeter squared
Hmm.
for 15 minutes. So, and they're calling that 28,800 joules, which is not the dosage, but that's just like total surface area multiplied by light irradiance with the duration. So 40, so for example, a lot of the panels are touting that they're 100 or 125 or 175 milliwatts per centimeter squared, which unless they're third party tested, I'm not believing it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of a whole educational part we can get into. So
Yeah.
like 50 milliwatts, that's what a moderate to lower powered panel should be in reality, is 40 milliwatts per centimeter squared. Um, so again, if it's 670, theoretically only um affecting the skin. But again, this is the amazing thing about light therapy, and maybe the frustrating part about red light therapy is like what we know is the very tip of the iceberg. We have so much
Yeah.
to tease out in the research, and this is a
Totally.
perfect example.
I think Dr. Max Gulhane actually, I don't know if you know Max, he
Yeah.
interviewed um, the leading researcher that did this study,
Oh, interesting.
and they had a whole episode about it to kind of flesh out all the details.
Did you listen to it?
No, I haven't yet,
I wonder if
but
they
I
talk
know that
about.
he did it. I know he did
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Improve mitochondrial membrane potential and increase ATP production via elevated oxidative phosphorylation. So the one thing I wish and I hope the research gets to, and Dr. Pollock and I talked about this at the Hydrate conference in San Diego that Tracy Dews put on.
Mm.
Did we talk about this? Did I mention this earlier in the first half?
We
That
talked about the conference a little bit, but I'm not sure if you talked about what you and Dr.
the the,
Pollock talked
the
about.
postulation that you can increase your body's hydration status without consuming water,
Oh, yes,
meaning
through
like
infrared,
or,
essentially.
or, or or through any mechanism that improves
Movement,
mitochondrial
heating
function,
up, cold there. Yeah, because
grounding.
your body makes, and I was talking with somebody about this yesterday in regards to red light therapy. I said, well, your body makes far infrared, which is what is actually been shown to increase the exclusion zone is actually the far infrared. And so, yeah, you do that through movement, through cuddling, going in a sauna, even doing cold therapy. Um, so many things can just taking a hot bath, taking a hot shower, all of those things can help you to increase your exclusion zone water, right? Is that what you're getting at?
No, that was a more detailed answer. I was just like
Oh,
very macroscopically like, okay, if we do anything to improve mitochondrial function,
mm-hmm.
can we improve hydration status of your body? So
Mm-hmm.
red light therapy, any type of these adjuvants that have a mitochondrial boosting or improving functioning capacity, such as methylene blue C60, grounding, all these things you mentioned, hydrogen rich water. Uh, Granted, that's drinking water, but the theory being, can those modalities or adjuvants improve your hydration status without drinking water? Because we're in this society or this like mantra where we need to
Instead of
drink like a
drinking,
gallon of water a day, and
which
that's like
is
that's
not a
not the
good
answer.
idea.
Yeah,
No. Well, inhalation, hydrogen inhalation, when I do that, I don't need to drink as much water. I mean, and I've talked to Tyler about that too, of how there's a possibility that it's increasing exclusion zone water just by breathing in the gas because of what it's doing to the mitochondria.
sure,
So
interesting.
yeah, yeah, there's so many, like when we talk about cellular hydration, we talk about the water in the body. We have to move past this myopic, like drink more water, drink more, because it's not going to do the job. Especially if you're, I've talked to so many people, I don't know about you, that they're just chronically dehydrated. They're dry. Their whole body is dry. They have dry skin. They have these chronic tissue stiffness issues, and they're drinking plenty of water.
Is
And I'm
that
like,
not a sign of mitochondrial dysfunction if you've ever seen one?
110% low exclusion zone water, mitochondrial dysfunction. And my question to those people is always, what environment are you in all day long? What's your how are your circadian rhythms? Are your detox pathways open? How is your sleep? Are you making enough pineal melatonin? Are you surrounded by non-native EMF? Are you staring at blue light all the time? Because blue light
Mhm.
produces that harmful form of retinol that blocks cytochrome 4. And so it's like there's so many things other than, or are you around a bunch of negative ass people?
Yeah, stress.
Yeah, stress. What's going on in your life? To put you in this chronic state. Uh, so yeah,
Also,
it's
another interesting thing to note upon hydration, and this is, I've thought about this as well, along with like, okay, does boosting mitochondrial function improve hydration status? Well, what
mhm,
about just improving your collagen status as well? Because
yeah.
collagen is mostly water. So,
Mhm.
what does red light do to the skin?
Yes.
Pro collagen. Um,
Yes.
and I'm sure it is the same thing deeper, like around different connective tissues in your body. You're probably pro collagen. So, another way
Mhm.
to like um, have another internal way to hold on to more water, or yeah, have a higher water or hydration status. Um, so that's kind of an interesting food for thought.
Yeah, agree. I know. And I don't know if how much you've gotten into the weeds about deuterium, but Dr. Boros is like super against the collagen supplements because they're really, really, really high in deuterium. And so that
Mhm.
kind of that's where I tell people go towards the broths, go towards the collagenous meats. Those are more
Yep.
safe than a dehydrated collagen supplement product. Those are going to be way higher because anything that's dehydrated, deuterium content, goes up. Um, but red light therapy, my favorite combo for my face is cold plunge for the face, followed by red light therapy. Then I go back to the cold plunge, then I go back to the red light therapy and just kind of like cycle back and forth between those. And not only does it feel amazing, but I really feel like it does work wonders for the skin.
How often do you do that?
Probably a couple times a week because I got to go out to the
Yeah.
shed to do it because I've got a big old cold plunge out there and my big
Nice.
red light panel that Chris gave me a Firehawk, which I can't stand in front of it for more than 2 minutes. It's just like overwhelming. You always think like bigger is better, but I I can't stand in
It all
front of that
depends
thing.
on what you're going for, right? And like that's part of the red light therapy education is I think we left off where red light treats the skin, near
Mhm.
infrared treats deeper. You
Yes.
consider that study, which might defy that logic, but
Hmm.
let's just take that for what it is at the moment. Red light treats the skin, near infrared treats deeper.
Hmm.
So that's why red light therapy masks for the face should be explicitly red.
Hmm.
I talked to someone who said there's masks that implement both, but based on the knowledge I have, I think it's red light only.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of marketing that like a higher power device is better.
Hmm.
And again, I think that's kind of marketeering or a lack of understanding because a higher power device does not equal deeper penetration like we talked about. It just means
Right.
more photon at a given depth,
Hmm.
depending on the wavelength. And um, there's certainly times and places for a panel or a higher power device, like if time is an issue
Hmm.
or
Yeah,
you're
like I
like
said,
doing
two
something.
minutes and like I'm done with that
Yeah,
thing.
if you're doing something neurological, like those necessitate a higher
Hmm.
dosage.
Hmm.
But what I'm trying to say is it all comes down to the dosage. The
Hmm.
dosage is predicated on what you're trying to treat. So
Hmm.
treating your skin for anti-aging versus your brain for anxiety and stress versus your thyroid for hyperthyroidism versus your gut or your sleep or athletic performance. Those all necessitate different dosages, and you can get that dosage or you can accomplish that dosage with literally a red light therapy bulb. Granted,
Hmm.
that'll take a long time, but you can do it with a bulb or you could do it with a laser. One's going to take a couple of hours, one's going to take a couple of seconds.
Hmm.
But you can accomplish it with any device that's on the market as long as you know the accurate light irradiance measurement. And this is kind of where the educational point of third-party testing comes into play because if you don't have an accurate light irradiance measurement, which is the strength of the LEDs,
Mm.
um, then you can't build or construct an accurate protocol. It's going to be built on faulty information. And it's
Mm.
been proven that if the product is not third party tested, his name's Alex Fergus. I think he's in New Zealand or something, but he has the expertise and the technology to test light irradiance measurements, whereas I had mine third party tested at like some professionals here in the US that have all that equipment and knowledge. But he took some of the most popular panels on the market from the popular brands. Um, and in one column, it's like this is what the product page is saying that it is. Maybe it's 100, but when he tested it, it's like in the low 80s.
Mm.
Different company, they say it's 175 milliwatts per centimeter squared for light irradiance, when in reality, it's like 90. So there's the issue, and there's like a dozen of these on I can send you the link to this if you want to look it over. You're probably
Yeah.
familiar with it, but there's a couple of issues with that. Again, if we're talking protocols and people are trying to like figure out how to treat, that's an issue. But more importantly, perhaps, is you're not getting what you paid for.
Right.
So like, and that's what I'm all about. I'm not about like everyone must buy BioLite or else. It's like, let's give people accurate information so they can make an apples to apples comparison because at the end of the day, everyone's not going to need or want a BioLite device. There's going to be a different different type of panel or a different type of apparatus that's better for them, and
Mhm.
that's phenomenal. No company can serve everyone,
Right.
but there needs to be accurate information again, so people, consumers, can make comparisons, see what makes the most sense for them, and then make the appropriate decision. And we alluded to the supplement industry with C60 and methylene blue. It's the same thing in the red light therapy space. It's the wild, wild west.
Mhm.
There's tons of marketeering. It seems like there's a different product or company popping up every other week or day at this point, and most of them are just white labeled, providing blase education, a lot of
Mhm.
misinformation. So that's really my mission, and that's what BioLite is, just a byproduct of my passions. I think I mentioned that at the top of the episode. Um, and so really education is my passion. So I appreciate Sarah, you having me on to kind of get my message out.
Oh yeah.
Like people with hopefully, I mean, as correct as I have found to this point, information, whether it's about C60, methylene blue, mitochondrial health, um, but especially red light therapy. That's, what I started with in early 2019. And even when I got in back then, or I should say, especially when I got in back then, the lack of education, the lack or the dearth of information, red light therapy wise, was horrendous. And even, what is it, 5 years later, almost 6 years later, I don't think it's improved that much, to be honest. I think there's still a lot of misinformation and misnomers out there, whether it's intentional or not. Um, we'll leave that where it is. But again, at the end of the day, consumers should be aware of what to look for. One of them is
Mhm.
third-party testing. Another is the safety metrics such as EMFs and light flicker. Um, which again, that's easier to test on your own. It doesn't take a crazy device to like test anything in your house with like a trimeter. Granted, someone told me
Spectrometer.
that's not necessarily the best thing to test EMFs, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But you need very expensive equipment and to be technically sound to accurately measure light irradiance. You can't use these solar meters because those are used to measure the sun. And that's what a lot of these companies are using, is saying, hey, this solar meter said that my panel was 125 or 150 or 175, when in fact, like that's the wrong device to be using.
Mm.
So anyway, so like back to the discussion of red light therapy, and then you alluded to my ebook.
Yep.
The newest edition includes this ecosystem I took the last year plus to create, which allows anyone with any type of red light therapy device to simply and effectively develop a protocol based on what you're trying to treat.
Mm.
So, whereas previous versions, the protocols I was developing, it gave people like a range of a distance, like 6 to 12 inches, and
Right.
then the duration was like 3 to 7 minutes, and then use red and or near infrared light. Quickly, well, not quickly, it took years, but over time, it became obvious that, well, even within my own company, different devices have different light irradiances. And those protocols I was putting in my ebook, which were based off of the research, was more or less centered around a particular light irradiance, meaning if you had a device that was more or less powerful, you would have to recognize that and then do the mathematical to work out the different distances and durations. So like that became a very cumbersome process for anyone to figure that out, let alone if you had a product from a different company with a different light irradiance. So
Mm.
what I created, and it's on the BioLite page. Anyone has access to this. It's a tab called Protocols, and it has a calculator. There's only two variables you need to plug in. The first one is light irradiance, and now you can see why light irradiance is particularly important to have third party tested, because you have to plug that in for your given device. That's going to be given on your product page or in the user manual for whatever product you have. If you have a BioLite product, all of the light irradiances from our products are listed on that page, so you can just like scroll down and check them out, and utilize them. So you plug that in, and then the second variable is the desired dosage. And this desired dosage, again, is predicated on what you're trying to treat. So part of this ecosystem is this Google Sheets page I've created, which is hundreds of conditions where I've sifted through um, uh, a vast majority of the photobiomodulation research. Granted, there's more popping up every day that I have to keep paying attention to, but a couple hundred protocols, or excuse me, conditions that had positive results in the research that also listed the desired dosage. That's one issue with the photobiomodulation research is the lack of consistency with what people are um, putting into their studies. Like some people don't even list the desired dosage. Some people don't even list uh, the wavelength sometimes. Like some people,
Oh, yeah.
it's all over the board, the lack of consistency. So there's plenty of other research that has positive results, but there wasn't a dosage, so I couldn't include it in this compendium of conditions. But regardless, so with this calculator, you plug in the light ratings, you plug in the desired dosage when you're looking at this list of a couple hundred conditions, see which one most closely relates to what you're going for. Let's say it's Alzheimer's, maybe it's around 35 joules per centimeter squared for the dosage. So you plug that in, and the calculator will spit out your treatment duration in seconds and in minutes.
Oh,
So the light irradiance also gives you the distance. So that's why that's not part of the calculator. That's part of the light irradiance measurement. So most of them are measured at 6 inches. Some people also include 12 inches.
okay.
For lower power devices, like for the mat or the sleeping bag product we have, well, your skin's going to be in direct contact. So we had that measured basically at 0 inches. But again, the distance is already given to you. So again, with this little ecosystem, anyone with any type of device can come in and know how to use their product accurately based on what they're trying to treat. Again, to your point, a lot of people want to come in and just like use it easily.
Right. They
Or
just want a
like,
simple, like, okay, what do I do? I don't need.
right. But again, the answer is unless the company is savvy enough to, and I haven't seen this yet by anyone else,
Mm-mm.
because there's only a couple of other companies I've seen that actually have legitimate third party testing. I've seen other companies use third party testing, and the numbers or the results they're providing like don't even make sense. Like I don't even know what this is. I think they're just doing it to say it's third party tested, but it's like this abstract weird thing. Like how is a consumer supposed to like pull information from this? Um, but to your point, if you wanted to use it just for general health and wellness, the colloquial paradigm is to do red light therapy every day for 20 to 30 minutes.
Mm. Yeah.
But that doesn't make sense
Right.
for a myriad of reasons. And so I guess that's where I got on this hot trail of like, okay, trying to work out this system so people have a little more nuance.
Mm.
Because again, even if we take those light irradiances at their word, 100 versus 175, and you're going to do 20 to 30 minutes, those are going to turn out to be drastically different um, dosages. And it's n equals one. Like this isn't a
Yep.
cookie cutter thing. So everyone's going to respond differently. And I guess that's where this conversation could lead to is when you first start with red light therapy, maybe start with a low dosage. Try like 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It
Yep.
depends on the size of your device. Do that for a week. See how your body responds. If you're not noticing much, it's not the red light therapy not working. Just slowly increase your dosage over time. Couple minutes at a time per treatment, or maybe 5 minutes increase it by five. Do that for a week or two. See what you notice. If you don't see any improvements, increase. Or if you do see improvements, that's the dosage that's probably right for you. And it's not this thing where you need to increase more and more and more. You find the dosage that works for you, and that's more or less the one based on what you're trying to treat, you should stick with.
Mm. Okay. So it doesn't have to be super, super complicated for people. I think that's where people just get lost. They're like, what? How do I use this thing? And what you're basically saying is is going to depend on the device. So there are some devices that are super popular with a lot of the holistic crunchy community that I've seen. And I'm looking at these things and I even have one. I have like a small one and it's battery operated. And I'm like, this thing is not as powerful as like my big, my Inferno, for instance, with the EMR tech. So you can't really take like a general recommendation and use it for both of those, correct? Like how would somebody
100%.
figure out I've got one of the small battery operated, I could put it right on my skin. I would assume you could use that one a heck of a lot longer than you would want to use like a bigger
Hey,
panel, correct?
um,
because I'll do that with my battery operated. Like if I just don't feel good, sometimes I'll just lay on bed in bed and like keep it on my stomach, or I've kept it on my low back if my low back has been bothering me. But then I look at the infrared when I turn on the infrared and it's just like barely, like I'm like, this is not super powerful like my big panel.
Go, let's just do a quick demonstration because I think
Okay.
this, especially for people watching, go to the BioLite website and go to the protocols page, and we'll just kind of use
Okay.
guesstimations for like these two products you're alluding to.
Okay, let me see if I can pull it up. I have so many tabs open. BioLite.
I'm the guiltiest of that. I have so many tabs, and most of it's
Well,
research I have to get to.
same. I'm like PubMed. It's just okay. So here we are. I'll go ahead and share my screen so we can let everybody see what we're talking about here. And please
Yeah, because I
ignore.
think me talking about it is like less beneficial than seeing it in real time. Yeah, get out of that. Just X at the bottom
Send to
right.
win. Okay, here we go. We're
Go
on
to
the BioLite.
protocols in the middle tab. And then, so you'll see there's like a little, a snippet of information or like education. But like if you used this before, you can just go straight to the calculator right there.
Okay.
And if you scroll even below that, just for people that have like BioLite devices, you can see those are all the light irradiances that are
Oh,
third party tested. So like that's like an easy resource for people like to pull their light irradiances for a given device.
okay. Cool.
Well, let's just go up to the calculator and let's just, I don't know what the numbers are, but let's just what's your desired dosage, or like, oh, what do we want to treat in this instance? I'll pull it off of the Google Sheets here.
Do you have like one for like low back pain?
Let's find
Or
it.
yeah.
Do musculoskeletal. Where are you? Or it's just going to be under pain. Ankle sprain, neck, knee, lumbar back, non-specific neck pain. Come on now. Myofascial,
I
chronic.
mean, we can go with non-specific back. I
Oh,
mean,
here's back pain, chronic non. Oh, see, like, so there's one, and this is where the research gets a little wacky too. Okay, and all these had positive results. Here's one that
mhm.
was just back pain. Desired dosage is 6. Another one that's back pain, discogenic in nature, 5.4.
Mm.
And one that's back pain, that's chronic, non-specific, 200. All of them were 3 times per week though, so that's worth noting. Um,
You're the you know about these sites. My left SI joint keeps getting
yep.
twisted because I have a wild toddler. Um,
Uh, well, here's one for SI joint pain.
yeah, that's where I'm at. Let's
Let's
look
do
at that.
20. 20.
Okay.
So
So
plug that
light.
into desired dosage.
Okay. So I'm going to go to 20 as my desired dosage.
Yep, because we're doing SI joint pain. So let's just say, for instance, the panel you have is 150. So you plug that into light irradiance.
Okay. And then desired dosage is 20 based on that research.
Boom. Yep, based
Okay.
on the research. So, and we're saying that that light irradiance was measured at 6 inches. So your treatment is almost 2.5 minutes to get 20, which is a higher dosage. Most dosages are like 5 to 10 average. Of course, they can go greatly up above that. But think about that. 2.5 minutes with a panel that's that strong.
Mm,
And we're talking about doing 20 to 30 minutes a day, every
yeah,
day.
that's
Like
it.
the general recommendation. So now let's plug in. Let's say your other panel is similar to the recharge, which is our tabletop model. Put in like 60 for light
Yeah,
radiance.
I was going to say something that's like
No, no, no.
not
Yeah.
powerful. Then you'd have to go 5.5 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
almost. Yep, 5.5.
Okay.
So, um, I mean, that's just a very basic, it's not like an extreme example, but think about that, from 2.5 minutes to 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it just exemplifies how different devices necessitate different dosages. And this calculator, again, is an extreme. Well, once you use it a couple of times and play with it, anyone can play with this for free.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like just start playing around with the numbers, and you'll start to see like not only is the 20 to 30 minutes a day like grossly high,
Mm-hmm.
unless you have a very, very low light radiance device, or you have the panel on and it's like kind of ambient in the room, and like you're just
Yeah.
doing your, like, by all means do that all day.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to be a little more sniper approach with trying to treat something specific, this is where something like this ecosystem comes into play and really makes it effortless.
And this red light therapy guide is what you're talking about, where this is what I have, where it's the ebook with protocols where you can actually look up
So
specific things, correct?
So this ecosystem replaces those protocols. That's what I was saying. Those
Mm-hmm.
protocols that give you like a general distance spectra, like 6 to 12 inches, and they give you like the range of minutes, like 3 to 7 minutes for
Okay.
just as an example. Like those have been completely taken out, and what has been replaced here, I'll send this link to you, and you can um I'll put the link. So like this is another good thing to show everyone.
Here, I'll stop sharing so I can
Oh
see.
no, please do share.
Okay. Are you sending me a link in the chat?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Okay. And I'll pull this one up and share it. Da-da. So this, if you're on Spotify or if you're on YouTube, you can see these. Sorry, my Apple friends.
I know. Apple's behind the game on that.
Apple's behind. Okay, so here's the red light. This is your spreadsheet. All right, so what are we looking at here?
Well, first of all, so on the far left is the condition. So it's like you're going to find what most closely resembles what you're trying to treat.
Mm,
I provide the wavelength just so people can see if it's red and or
okay.
near infrared. And then
Hmm.
the one that's highlighted yellow, of course, is that desired dosage. That's what you're going to plug into the calculator. And
Okay.
of course, I had the frequency so people can see what the research did for that particular. Again, this isn't concrete, but this is just what the research showed. And then in the far right is, of course, the link to the actual article if you want to
Study.
dig a little
Okay.
deeper. But there's over a couple hundred conditions. So again, people would have their device from whatever company they choose. Hopefully, they have an accurate light irradiance measurement. They
Hmm.
can plug that light irradiance into the calculator, and then again, based on what they're trying to treat, you plug in that dosage, and that's going to give you the duration of your treatment. And again, that's not perfect or it's not concrete, but it's just the information we have at this time based on the research. Um, so I think people could err on the side of like easily 10 to 15% less or more. Like let's say for example, your first one was what was it, 2.5 minutes?
Hmm.
I think you could easily do like 3.5 minutes or like 2 minutes.
Hmm.
Again, it's a spectrum. It's not like concrete or black and white.
Yep.
So, but at this point, like it's the best and easiest way to, and especially for people that are treating clients or having people like at med
Mm.
spa or what have you come in and they're wanting to treat different things with red light therapy. Like this is just an extremely easy way to produce those protocols.
Awesome. I love it. And that's all we can, so we can get this through the website now, correct?
Correct. And it's just included with any purchase of a BioLight device. So people
Okay.
have access to that ebook.
Nice. That's helpful. Yeah, because that's the most common thing. I'll get people, I got this panel. I don't know what to do with it. Like, um, there's about
Well, I mean,
10,000.
it's a good question, right? Too, it's
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
invest in this expensive piece of equipment to improve your health, and it's like
Hmm.
it's frustrating or kind of demoralizing if you don't really know how to use it.
Right. Exactly. Awesome. Well, I'll make sure I have all that linked in the show notes so people can check it out.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, anything else? I felt like we had the pretty good conversation last episode about mitochondria, which really warmed us up. Mitochondria, water, started talking about C60, got into C60 here some more, methylene blue, red light therapy. Anything else that I didn't cover that you wanted to cover?
Well, on the topic of red light therapy, because I think this is new information since I was last on your podcast, is red light therapy and infrared saunas.
Oh,
We
yes,
talked
yes,
about
yes,
this.
yes. I've been talking about this because I saw your podcast on it and because there's so many uh sauna companies, including the sauna that I have. They talked my brother-in-law into putting panels in his sauna and I was like,
Yeah.
"No."
It makes sense though, right? Like up until I learned. So this all stems from a conversation I had on my podcast with Dr. Praveen Irani. He is one of the more respected photobiomodulation experts and researchers. His lab is in the University of Buffalo, but he's been on my podcast twice. I'm trying to get him on a third time so we can talk about the PBM conference that just happened in August. Um, but our conversation last year, almost like a year ago to the day, or it might have been last September, he told me in my audience that he had just learned, I don't think it was necessarily from his lab, but he learned that the heat from the infrared sauna inhibits the benefits you would otherwise get from red light therapy. So it's not a negative side effect or like dangerous. you're just going to be having this panel inside of the sauna or like the red light in your sauna, and the heat is just going to disallow you from getting those benefits from the red light therapy. So the moral of the story is separate them into two different treatment sessions.
Is that because the mechanism? Because this is what I've been wanting to ask you about since I saw that come out. Is it because the far infrared that your body is making is going to compete with the other wavelengths with the red and near infrared? Is that what's happening essentially?
So I don't think he spelled out the mechanisms. It was just
Yeah.
like the research was when your body temperature or the temperature inside the sauna reaches a certain, it's like high 90s or maybe low, low,
Or it's
low.
like over your body temperature essentially. Like anytime your
Yep.
body, yeah, yeah.
So as far as the specific mechanism, I'm not sure. You might be onto something. Um, but again, infrared saunas are predominantly mid and far
Yeah,
infrared.
mine's full spectrum, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what percentage is of each infrared range?
I don't know. I can turn each of the features off though.
Hmm,
So I can have it be near infrared only, or I can have it be far infrared, or I can just hit one button that says full spectrum. I don't know. I
same.
usually just am
Yeah.
like full, whatever. I'm about to sweat my butt off. And
Well, that begs the question, are you, and this will be another question for Dr. Arani,
mhm,
in that situation, is the heat disallowing the benefits you think you're getting from near infrared?
that's a good question. That's a
I don't
really good
know.
question. I
Just
don't
food
know
for thought.
either. Yeah.
But up until that point, like I thought it was a cool combination, infrared sauna, red light therapy, like
Mhm.
totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But apparently you're not getting the bang for your buck.
Yeah. Yeah. Since I heard that, I'm always like, I'll do my sauna. Then I get on my cold plunge and, rinse off, get in the cold plunge, get nice and cold, then jump in front of my red light panel. Like if I'm going to do it like a little trifecta, I love to do that.
Yep.
That's the order that I'll do it in. That's how I had kind of intuitively always done it because I just never really wanted to go to a sauna and then get in front of a light. I'm like,
Yeah.
just, you know,
Yep.
but yeah, I've been ever since I heard that podcast, I've been more um conscientious to do that. I'm curious though, if you do get him back on to talk, I really want to know like what's going on in the mitochondria, like what's the specific mechanism that he found to show that. Because I was on Alex Zek's podcast because he's got
Mm.
Alec has a sauna space and he's got the infrared panels in there, and I was like, I told him about it. He's not happy,
Well, of course, it's like that's inconvenient, right? Because
right? Because you want
it's
to do it all in one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, an inconvenient truth, but hopefully a convenient lesson that'll allow your mitochondria to get healthier because you're actually going to get benefits from your red light therapy now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess one other topic that'd be worth quickly covering is just the impact of, or how about some low-hanging fruit ways to utilize your red light therapy? I think so. If you don't have a full body device, which probably is the best bang for your buck because getting like the systemic benefits of red light therapy,
Hmm.
irradiating as many mitochondria as possible,
Hmm.
as long as you're doing it effectively and not quote unquote overdosing, then probably the best thing you can do. But even if you have a smaller device, let's say a handheld or even a tabletop device,
Hmm.
these are three areas I would be doing on a weekly basis. Not every day or not like every session, but on a weekly basis, I would implement at least one for your gut.
Oh,
There's
yes.
tremendous research that you can affect your brain by improving your gut, let alone, of
Yes.
course, your gut health and your gut microbiome improving. Um, Back to Hippocrates, of course, all our health starts in our gut. So the gut, at least once a week. Red near infrared, do combo. Mostly near infrared, but do red near infrared combo. Um, Second one would be the brain. Speaking of the gut brain axis, at least once a week, get your frontal lobe. There's a lot of issues begin when mentally, when we either have neuroinflammation, when we have lack of oxygen,
Hmm.
i.e., poor energy production. I mean, the brain is the most mitochondrial dense tissue in the body. So if you're going to have mitochondrial dysfunction, your brain may be one of the first places to get hit. So just even as a prophylactic measure, just doing that once a week, probably going to lead to a lot of good things. And then the mouth.
Oh,
You
you've
talk
got
to
a
a
mouth
biologist.
tray, right?
Yeah, so we have a couple of things. But if people, and I'm sure you've had biological dentists on you or you've spoken to them, so you and your audience are probably well versed. I'm probably preaching to the choir, but the impact of your oral health on your entire body cannot be overstated.
Mm.
And so I didn't really learn this until, well, actually, my first podcast guest was Kelly Blodgett out of Portland, and he's a biological dentist. I've spoken with Dr. Dominic Nishwitz a couple of times. But you talk to those guys or you talk to any biological dentist, again, the profound effect. So, and there's a preponderance of research in photobiomodulation on the oral cavity. A lot of it's on orthodontic surgeries and stuff like that to help
Mm.
improve the surgery recovery, decrease infection rate. But there's even some showing you can decrease enamel erosion, you
Mm.
can increase your oral microbiome, um, you can what else? Decrease cavities, because again, if you decrease the acidity of the environment, you're probably going to decrease some cavities. Decrease bad breath, because if you improve the oral microbiome, if you improve the ratio of beneficial to harmful bacteria, um, bad breath comes from a preponderance of bad bacteria. So there's a lot of great things you can do just by doing red and blue light, because blue light is the antibacterial light. So that's another one. Even if you just have like a handheld device, or again, even a panel, even if you just open your mouth and irradiate your mouth a little bit. That's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But to your point, that's really why with BioLite we've gotten into the oral care side of things, is because if you can have like a mouth guard that can go directly into your mouth, irradiate all your gums, a lot of gum health properties as well, I should mention. Um, but recently we released a toothbrush that's like it's a sonic
Ah,
toothbrush with
saw
red and
that.
blue light.
It's
So
got blue light as well.
yeah. And
Nice.
so the mouthpieces, this is just the delineation I want to make here. You can ask any questions or we can end after this, but um the mouthpieces, so there's two versions. One mouthpiece has just red light therapy, red and near infrared light. A second version has um half of it is red near infrared, half of it is blue. So you get the benefits of both. You do half the treatment one way, flip it 180 degrees, so then each upper and lower level can get red near infrared and blue light. Um, Blue light is notorious for being good for teeth whitening, but again,
Mm.
there's a ton of antibacterial gum health properties as well. So I'm more keen on that.
Mm.
So those have more of a therapeutic dosage, those mouth guards. So you'd use those 2, maybe 3 times a week consistently if you're looking to heal from something. Whereas this toothbrush has a much lower light irradiance or a much lower strength and power. And that's intentional, because if you're going to brush your teeth once or twice a day, every day, you surely would not want a therapeutic dosage that often.
Right.
Um, so the theory is to expose your oral cavity to that low level red and blue light daily is going to lead to some pretty powerful oral cavity, oral health benefits, and of course, the downstream effects of your entire body via improving your oral cavity health.
Okay. Very interesting. So you can use that a lot more often. And I know of some
You would a
dentists.
regular toothbrush,
Hmm?
just like you would a regular toothbrush, just daily.
And you guys just released that one, so that's available now for anybody who's
Yep.
wanting to improve their oral health.
Yep.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I feel like we've we've covered a
We've covered a
lot.
lot.
Yeah, we've definitely covered a lot. And if we have questions, we can always book another episode. And I know this will probably come out before the Health Transformation Summit that Carrie and I are putting on in November. I'm thinking it should. So if you want more from Mike, we'll make sure you sign up to come on to the summit and check out that talk. Because I know Carrie always brings out interesting things as well. So
Yeah. Yes, that
yeah,
was a fun conversation.
yeah, she's awesome. Awesome. Well, where can people find you? We've pulled up the BioLite website. I'll make sure to have that linked in the show notes. But if they want to follow you, I know you've got a podcast. Let's just plug some of your stuff before we wrap up here.
Sure. Yeah. My podcast is the Red Light Report, which certainly centered around or began as red light therapy centric and has kind of morphed into that's the main focus. But of course, talking about a lot of things mitochondrial
Mm.
health, bring on experts in their respective health, wellness, longevity, biohacking spheres, such as Sarah herself. She's been on
No,
multiple times at this point. Um, or is it just the once at this point?
I think it's just once.
It's
Yeah.
once. It's certainly
Yeah.
going to be twice in the near future.
Yeah.
So the Red Light Report, you can find me personally on LinkedIn or Instagram. If you type in my name, there's not too many Belkowski, so I'm easy
Nope.
to find that way. BioLite is biolite.shop for all social media platforms, predominantly on Instagram or active on Instagram, YouTube. And I am certainly going to be a lot more consistent in putting out a lot of information red light therapy and mitochondrial wise, because I'm going to trudge ahead and try to write a book.
I
So
love it.
so like I have
Mm.
so much research and information to learn and like integrate and synthesize. But part of the process of going through all of that is I'm just going to be posting like whatever I'm learning all the time. So I should be putting out a lot of pretty cool content going forward.
Exciting. Well, I'll make sure we have all those links in the show notes so people can follow you, and definitely excited for more chats in the future. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening to the Evolving Wellness Podcast. Just a quick little reminder, this is not medical advice nor meant to be taken as a substitute for working one-on-one with a healthcare practitioner. And if you enjoy the show, please head on over to Apple or Spotify to leave the show up to a 5-star review. If you're over on YouTube, please leave us a like, leave us a comment. I really appreciate you for being here, for listening to the show, and your support means the world to me as I continue to try to pull guests from around the world to bring you informative content to empower you to make decisions about your own health. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.